It blackens the eyes of people who are actually trying to do something about healthcare, who actually want to know the numbers, who want to do right by their bodies and their loved ones' health. It makes it very hard to advance the argument if you're not getting the numbers right. I also think this whole idea, Michael, of just calling it a free system, I think is a little bit nebulous to people who don't fully understand what you mean by that. Yes, you got to raise taxes significantly. I mean, France is drowning in taxes. They're running a $15.6 billion debt. I mean, it's very hard to pay for this sort of thing, and to just call it free and say it's free, I think makes it very, it's murky, Michael, at best. And I think that's what I have difficulty with when you're trying to really advance a scenario here where we can get health care for everybody.
Good point. Michael?
Well, he just used the line from my film where I said the French are drowning in taxes. That's my line. Is that right?
Well, look, Michael, I think you'd have to agree. No, you have to agree that people would walk away from your film with the perception that healthcare is free in England.
Yeah.
In Canada, I mean, you're a filmmaker. You know how to do this sort of thing.
It is free.
You pay for it through taxes. I mean, in France, there's a 13.5% payroll tax. There's a 5% income tax. That's in addition.
When will I get to say something here?
Go ahead.
All right, Sanjay, go ahead, Michael.
Man, oh man.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
We got Michael Moore speechless. That's pretty hard to do here.
Well, no, it's just I'm not going to. I'm trying to say something here, and he just went on with another diatribe about this. You know, first of all, these countries. Do you think the other 24 of the top 25 industrialized countries are doing this wrong, and we're doing it right? I mean, they actually do get care for free. And we don't call it taxes, but what we pay for in co-pays and deductibles, or if you're having to pay for your own premium, when you add all that up, and the profit that has to go into the pocket of the private insurance companies, when you add all that up, we're actually paying more than these other countries. That's why it's $7,000 per person instead of, say, $3,000 in Canada per person, because we have a system built on profit. And they won't allow profit to enter into the equation because they're mostly concerned about making sure every single one of their citizens is covered. And so you won't find many Canadians or French or British people willing to give up their national system for our system, even if they do have to pay a little more in taxes, because in the end, because they're not paying the co-pays and the deductibles and all these other things, it's actually costing them less money in the long run.
Well, if I can respond really quick, Mike, I don't disagree with any of that. The point is, though, and I think you'd have to concede this point, Michael, that you're trying to lead people to believe, again, people who are really concerned about this issue, that it is free in these other countries. And that is what I think
is free.
It's not, Michael. I mean, the taxes are high. I understand that you're equating taxes with HMO premiums. I get it. I've studied this stuff, as have you. But to just say to someone who doesn't have a sophisticated understanding of exactly how healthcare works that it's free is simply not true. Why do they have such a high debt in France? Why are they paying so much more in taxes?
The difference is that in those countries, if you get sick, you never have to worry about whether or not you're going to be able to afford to pay for it. That's the difference. And when you've got 47 million people in this country with no health insurance, they don't go to the doctor because they can't afford it. And I mean, I just think, let me ask you as a doctor, I mean, do you like, as a doctor, having to, when you have a patient there, and before you can perform a procedure or a treatment or refer to a specialist, that you've got to call the insurance company first and talk to a man that's sitting in a cubicle 1,000 miles away in order to get permission when you've got the patient right there? Do you think that's a good system?
No, it's not, Michael. And obviously, it's a shameful system, especially when I'm dealing with some of my patients. But Michael, I mean, on one hand, you criticize...
Well, that's why I want to eliminate the middleman.
You criticize the government so soundly, but you're willing to hand over one of our most precious commodities, our health care of this country, to the government. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I can't believe you're saying this all in the same sentence. You so soundly criticize the way this government manages things, yet you're willing to hand over this precious commodity to them.
No, I actually love our government. I think the government's great. It does a great job of administrating Social Security. Our parents and grandparents get their checks every single month on time and for the correct amount. Our government used to do a lot of things really well. We put a man on the moon in 8 years after the president said we're going to put a man on the moon. We had FDR, who defeated the Nazis and the Japanese and Mussolini in less time than it's taken us to secure the road from the airport to downtown Baghdad.
I hear you.
I mean, the government actually used to do things right. The problem is who we've put in power, who holds office. They're the ones who sort of messed this up, and we just need to have the right people there administrating it.
Michael, one of the best examples of health care, at least some sort of universal health care, be Medicare. I think you'd agree with that. It's gonna go bankrupt by 2019. It's going to be $28 trillion in debt by 2075. Look, I believe the very measure of a great society is in how we take care of those who cannot take care of themselves. But would you say that this is going to be still a working system 20 years from now?
Let me get a break, guys.
Not if we keep spending $100 billion a year on a war. No, we won't have money for our own people.
All right.
We have to reprioritize things.
We have a few minutes left, and I'll get back to Michael Moore and Dr. Sanjay Gupta, and maybe we'll do a lot more on this one night soon, as it deserves all of our attention. Don't go away. We have a few moments remaining. Dr. Gupta, Michael Moore said that many American doctors are demoralized by the current U.S. healthcare system, that a lot of them flat out hate it. You agree?
Well, I think for some of the reasons Michael just talked about, with the fact that we have to sometimes go to people outside the system, people who may not be familiar with the patient's care, to get approval for certain things. There's been a lack of autonomy. I'm a neurosurgeon. I sense that very profoundly. And I think, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems with the system. At least, I mean, the one that we certainly have to mention, obviously, is the uninsured problem. I mean, it breaks your heart to see how many people don't have basic health care insurance. It needs fixing.
No. Michael, do you think maybe you overreacted to Sanjay's piece?
No, I am sorry we've taken so much time trying to correct his facts here tonight instead of talking about the real issue. People can go to my website and you can see point by point where he was wrong and everything. But I think the real discussion we should have, Larry, maybe we could do this again, is to talk about what Sanjay just brought up in terms of the 47 million who don't have insurance. 18,000 people die every year for no other reason other than the fact that they don't have insurance. Medical bills are now the #1 cause of bankruptcy in this country. And if I could, I'd just like to say one thing about these wait times in Canada. They always talk about how you got to wait longer in Canada, which is true for some things that are not emergencies. But the reason why you have a little bit longer wait in Canada is because everybody's in line, because they cover everybody. In our country, we've removed 47 million people from the line. And anytime you remove 47 million people from a line, you're going to have less wait in line. Those of us who have insurance have a less wait time because 47 million of our citizens aren't there in front of us in line. That's wrong, and it's immoral.
Sanjay, good point.
I think it's worth bringing up the numbers. I think Michael's right. I think, you know, for a cardiac catheterization, for example, Michael, which is something you and I both might need one day in our lives, you wait 6 days if it's sort of an emergency in Canada, and up to 60 days for it to be elective. I don't know what you think about those numbers in the United States on average, and I understand the uninsurance problem. I get it. I hear what you're saying on that. But it can take about a day for someone who's non-emergent and a few hours for someone who's emergent. I mean, these are the facts. These are the numbers, Michael. I mean, if you had a heart problem, where would you rather be? If you're having chest pain right now and you need a heart catheterization, do you want to be waiting 6 days up to 60 days, or do you want to be taken care of within hours or a day?
If I were in England, 71% of the people there get to see the doctor that day or the next day. In Australia, it's 66%. And I mean, all these countries other than Canada are better than us at this, and they spend less money on it than we do. You know, I mean, I know we like to feel like we're #1, and you know, Larry, you asked me if there's anything I regret about yesterday with Wolf, and I do feel bad about it, asking him to apologize on behalf of all the media to the American people about the war. I mean, I've been wondering for 3 or 4 years when somebody from the media was just going to say, "Hey, we're sorry we didn't ask those questions," and I didn't mean to put that on Wolf to be the lone representative of all that I think is wrong with our mainstream media right now. So
and one thing we should clear up. You know, you're saying it well. Dr. Gupta, we have less than a minute, and we should clear up. Have you ever had an effect by the fact of who the sponsor is on what you report?
No, I have no contact at all with the sponsors. They've never affected my judgment. We did the story, the Sicko fact-check piece was completely just our own editorial pursuits on this. And
Except, let me say this. The one expert that you had in the piece is a person from a think tank group who's a big Republican contributor. He's done business with Blue Cross. with Aventis, with these other groups. I mean, don't you have a right as a journalist, or a responsibility actually, to tell the public when you're using an expert, this person is a Republican, he's with a think tank that's connected to Tommy John.
He's with a think tank.
You know,
his only affiliation is with Vanderbilt University. We checked it, Michael. We checked his conflict of interest. We do ask those questions. Whether or not we disclose it to you specifically.
I tell you what, guys,
we're
going to do this again, and we're going to have a major discussion on health care with both of you, and thank you both.
All right, good.
Hey, Michael, thanks for raising the issue, Michael. I hope people vote their conscience at the ballot.
Michael Moore and Dr. Sanjay Gupta. One quick reminder, you can download our latest podcast by going to cnn.com/Larry King or find it on iTunes.com.